A black man was being harassed in a crowded parking lot with a stranger yelling racial slurs and telling him he didn't belong. Bystanders watched in silence until a sleek black motorcycle pulled up. When Keanu Reeves took off his helmet and walked over, no one expected what he would do next. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the grocery store parking lot, the asphalt still radiating heat from the day's sun. It was one of those busy evenings where people moved about in a hurried daze. Parents wrangling restless kids, employees rushing home, shoppers pushing heavy carts toward their cars. Marcus Taylor was among them, methodically loading his groceries into the trunk of his old sedan. He had just finished a long shift at the community center where he worked as a youth mentor. His feet ached, and his mind was already on dinner. Something quick, something easy. Just as he closed the trunk, ready to slide into the driver's seat and head home, a voice cut through the air like a jagged knife. "Hey, what the hell are you doing here?" Marcus turned, surprised. A stocky, red-faced man in his 40s stood a few parking spaces away, his arms crossed, his expression twisted in disgust. He was dressed in a stained polo and cargo shorts, his stance wide, aggressive. Marcus frowned. "Excuse me?" The man took a step closer, his lip curling. "I said, what are you doing here? You don't belong in this neighborhood." His words dripped with venom. A prickle of unease ran up Marcus's spine. He knew what this was. He'd seen it before, felt it before. He glanced around, hoping maybe someone would intervene, but the crowd around him seemed frozen. A mother hurrying her child into a car glanced over, then quickly looked away. A man in a business suit fiddled with his keys, pretending not to hear. Even the security guard stationed near the store entrance seemed reluctant to step in. Marcus forced himself to stay calm. "I live here," he said, keeping his voice even. "Just picking up some groceries." The man let out a humorless chuckle. "Yeah, right." He gestured toward Marcus's car, a reliable but well-worn sedan. "That your car? You steal that too?" Marcus exhaled sharply. He knew this game. He also knew there was no right answer. If he walked away, the man would feel emboldened. If he responded, it could escalate. His hands clenched at his sides. He had always taught the kids at the center to de-escalate situations like these, to walk away with dignity. But damn, was it hard to practice what he preached. The man took another step forward. "I asked you a question, boy." That word, boy, something in Marcus's chest tightened. He squared his shoulders, standing taller. "I don't owe you an explanation," he said firmly. The man's expression darkened. "You don't belong here," he shouted, his voice echoing across the lot. "Go back to where you came from." A hush fell over the area. More people had stopped now, watching. Some held their phones, but none were recording. Marcus felt a tight knot of frustration coil in his stomach. They were waiting to see how bad it would get, how far it would go before they decided whether or not to care. The man moved closer, now just a few feet away. "What? You got nothing to say now? You think you—" Vroom! The deep growl of a motorcycle engine sliced through the tension like a knife. Heads turned as a sleek black bike pulled into the lot, gliding effortlessly into a space just a few feet away. The rider was dressed in all black. Leather jacket, dark jeans, gloves. He killed the engine. The silence that followed thick with anticipation. Slowly, the rider swung a leg off the bike and removed his helmet. A collective murmur rippled through the crowd. A few gasps, a whispered, "No way." Keanu Reeves ran a hand through his tousled dark hair, his signature laid-back expression unreadable as he turned his attention toward the confrontation. He took a step forward, his presence shifting the entire energy of the parking lot. Marcus blinked. What the hell is Keanu Reeves doing here? But before he could even process that thought, Keanu spoke. His voice was calm, measured, but there was an unmistakable edge to it. "Is there a problem here?" The parking lot held its breath. The racist man's bravado flickered, just for a second, before he scoffed. "What, you stepping in for your little friend here?" His voice was still filled with arrogance, but there was something else now, uncertainty. Keanu tilted his head slightly, his expression unreadable. "I'm just wondering why you feel the need to bother someone minding their own business," he said. His voice was soft, but the weight behind his words was impossible to ignore. The man let out a nervous laugh. "What, you some kind of hero?" Keanu didn't move. "Not a hero," he said. "Just a guy who doesn't like bullies." A murmur spread through the crowd. A few people shifted closer, their eyes bouncing between Keanu and the man, eager to see what would happen next. The man's face reddened further. "You Hollywood types think you can just—" Keanu took another step forward. He wasn't threatening. He wasn't loud. But something in his presence made the man falter. "Maybe take a second to think before you say something you can't take back," Keanu said, his voice still impossibly calm. The air in the parking lot crackled with tension. The man opened his mouth to retort, but then something flickered across his face, a realization. The crowd had shifted. No one was watching him anymore. All eyes were on Keanu, and for the first time the racist man wasn't in control of the moment. Marcus exhaled slowly, the weight on his chest easing just a little. Because for the first time since this all started, he wasn't standing alone. A heavy silence hung in the parking lot, thick as fog. The man who had been hurling slurs just moments ago now stood rigid, his fists clenched at his sides. His face, still flushed red with anger, flickered with uncertainty as Keanu Reeves leveled his steady gaze at him. Marcus, still processing what was happening, stole a glance at the crowd. People who had been hesitant to even make eye contact before were now openly staring, their curiosity outweighing their fear. Some even had their phones out. The balance had shifted. Keanu took another step forward, his posture relaxed but commanding. "You were saying—" The man let out a dry, humorless chuckle. "Oh, so now I'm supposed to be scared because some big-shot actor decided to play the hero?" He sneered, trying to regain his footing. "This isn't Hollywood, pal." Keanu tilted his head slightly as if studying him. "You're right," he said. "It's not Hollywood. This is real life. And in real life, harassing strangers in a parking lot makes you a coward." The man's smirk faltered. A quiet ripple of agreement passed through the onlookers. A woman near the store entrance murmured, "He's got a point." Marcus, still standing by his car, felt his pulse slow just a little. He wasn't used to someone stepping in like this, especially not this someone. Keanu's voice was calm, measured. He wasn't shouting, he wasn't threatening, but his presence alone was enough to shift the energy in the air. The man scoffed again, though his voice wasn't as loud this time. "You don't know what you're talking about." Keanu raised an eyebrow. "Really? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're just a guy who got caught being a racist in public and doesn't know how to back out gracefully." A few people chuckled under their breath. The tide was turning. The man's face twisted with frustration. "This isn't about race. This dash—" Keanu cut him off with a slow shake of his head. "Come on, man. You and I both know what this is about." His voice remained soft, but it carried weight. "So here's an idea. Why don't you do the thing you probably should have done 10 minutes ago?" The man frowned, confused. "And what's that?" Keanu crossed his arms. "Walk away." The words hung in the air. The man opened his mouth, but no words came out. The parking lot felt different now. The crowd was no longer frozen by fear. The bystanders, once silent, were watching the man expectantly. Not Marcus, not Keanu. Him. And for the first time, he was the outsider. Marcus saw the realization dawn in the man's eyes. He had lost the moment. There was no way to claw it back. His jaw tightened. He let out a sharp breath, looking around as if searching for some way to regain control. But there was none. No one was on his side. No one was stepping in to back him up. Finally, with a muttered curse under his breath, the man turned on his heel and stomped away. His retreating figure cut through the crowd, shoulders stiff with rage and humiliation. The moment he disappeared around the corner of the lot, a wave of energy pulsed through the bystanders. Some let out sighs of relief. Others chuckled nervously. A few even clapped, though Keanu, clearly uninterested in the attention, ignored it. Instead, he turned to Marcus. "You good?" Keanu asked, his voice quieter now. Marcus blinked, caught off guard by the directness. He had been so used to standing on his own, bracing himself for the worst, holding his tongue, picking his battles, swallowing the anger just to get through the day. Now, for the first time in what felt like forever, someone had stood beside him. and that someone just happened to be Keanu Reeves. Marcus let out a slow breath, the weight on his chest easing. "Yeah," he said. "I think I am." Keanu nodded once. No grand speeches, no expectation of gratitude, just a quiet confirmation that Marcus was okay. And then, to Marcus's surprise, Keanu smiled. "Cool," he said. "Want to grab a coffee?" Marcus blinked. Did Keanu Reeves just invite him for coffee? Before he could respond, the murmur of the crowd started growing again, this time filled with recognition and excitement. People were pulling out their phones, whispering, pointing. The reality of who had just stepped in was beginning to hit them. And Keanu clearly noticed. With an easy chuckle, he leaned in slightly and said under his breath, "Might be a good idea to move before we get swarmed." Marcus let out a breathless laugh. "Yeah, let's go." And with that, the two of them walked off, leaving behind the echoes of a moment no one in that parking lot would soon forget. The coffee shop was small and quiet, a welcome change from the tense parking lot. Marcus still couldn't believe it. He was having coffee with Keanu Reeves. As they ordered, the barista nearly dropped the coffee pot when she recognized Keanu. He gave her a polite smile, insisting on paying despite her offering it on the house. Marcus chuckled. "No elaborate Hollywood drink, just black coffee?" Keanu smirked. "I keep it simple." They found a corner table, the tension from earlier still lingering in Marcus's chest. Keanu must have noticed. "You get that a lot." Marcus exhaled. "Yeah, more than I'd like to admit." Keanu nodded. "You handled it well." Marcus scoffed. "Did I?" "You didn't give him what he wanted," Keanu said. "That takes control." Marcus ran a hand over his face. "Doesn't seem to matter. People like that find a reason to hate no matter what." Keanu leaned forward. "Hate doesn't have an expiration date, but neither does dignity." Marcus blinked. Keanu continued, "It's easy to focus on the people who hate. They're loud. But most people, they just want to live. Don't waste your energy on the wrong ones." Marcus sighed. "So just ignore it?" Keanu shook his head. "Number but don't feed it." He leaned back. "You ever hear the story of the two wolves?" Marcus smirked. "The one about the good wolf and the bad wolf?" Keanu nodded. "The one you feed is the one that wins." Marcus sat with that for a moment. Then Keanu shifted. "What do you do?" Marcus hesitated. "I run a youth mentorship program." Keanu's brows lifted. "That's amazing." Marcus laughed. "Try telling that to my paycheck." Keanu grinned. "Money's not the only measure of success." "Easy for a millionaire to say." Keanu chuckled. "Fair." He studied Marcus. "What's the dream?" Marcus hesitated, then admitted, "I used to paint." "Haven't in years." Keanu pulled out a notepad, scribbled something, and slid it across the table. Marcus glanced at it, an email, a gallery name. "What's this?" "A friend," Keanu said. "If you ever start painting again, send him your work." Marcus stared at the slip of paper. Keanu met his gaze. "Feed the right wolf." For the first time that day, Marcus smiled. Maybe today wasn't just about shutting down a racist in a parking lot. Maybe today was about something bigger. Marcus tucked the slip of paper into his pocket, still processing everything. Keanu had stepped in, shut down a racist, and now he was encouraging Marcus to reclaim his passion. Before he could fully absorb it, a sharp voice cut through the cafe. "There he is." Marcus turned. The man from the parking lot. Flushed with anger and humiliation, he stormed toward their table. A few customers gasped. The barista reached for her phone. "You think you can embarrass me and just walk away?" The man hissed, pointing a finger at Keanu. "You don't know who you're messing with." Keanu, still seated, sipped his coffee. "I know exactly who I'm dealing with." The man's nostrils flared. He lunged, fast, reckless, stupid. Keanu moved even faster. One step, one smooth sidestep. The man stumbled forward, colliding with a chair, crashing onto the floor. Silence. Then from somewhere in the cafe, laughter. Marcus watched as the man scrambled up, his face red, his breathing heavy. He knew he had lost. Keanu set down his cup. "You should go." The man clenched his fist but saw the phones pointed at him. His rage met reality. With a growl, he turned and stormed out. The moment he was gone, the tension evaporated. A barista muttered, "What a clown." Keanu exhaled, shaking his head. "Some people never learn." Marcus chuckled. "Yeah, but that was satisfying." Keanu grinned. "A little." They clinked coffee cups, both knowing the moment had passed, but the impact would last. By the time Marcus left the cafe, the whole encounter felt surreal. Keanu Reeves had stepped in, shut down a racist, and somehow encouraged Marcus to believe in himself again. As they walked outside, Marcus turned to Keanu. "So, is this just what you do? Show up out of nowhere and change people's lives?" Keanu chuckled. "Nah, just happened to be in the right place." He clapped Marcus on the shoulder. "The rest is up to you." Marcus patted the slip of paper in his pocket. "The rest is up to you." A few days later, he pulled out an old canvas. He mixed his paints, picked up a brush, and for the first time in years, he created. And somewhere, miles away, a sleek black motorcycle rode off into the sunset, its rider never knowing just how much he had changed someone's life.